Alright, so we're going to do the video on the Dye M2. Now, in the previous show, we already did the unboxing, so you already saw everything that was in there. Probably the biggest thing with the unboxing is that you get two barrel backs now. So you get the standard Dye Ultralight 688 back, and you also get the 684 back. A lot of people have complained about smaller and smaller paint. It's been an issue that we've seen out there, and Dye recognized that with the new Dye M2 by including the 684 back in it. And the thing that's nice, it's also anodized to match. Okay, so let's get into the biggest controversy that seemed to be surrounding Dye for many years, which is the lack of the OLED board. I spoke to Dye about this, and they had a couple reasons why they've stuck to the LED board for quite some time. Is one, the LED boards, it allows you to maintain a slimmer grip. Obviously, the hourglass, the ultralight frame is a trademark of Dye, having these really slim grips. A lot of people really like the really slim grips, so the LED board allowed them to have that. One of the other things is the sustainability of the LED board. Okay, OLED boards, can cost anywhere between $100, $150, sometimes even higher, $180 to replace. Okay, well, an LED board only costs maybe $50 to replace. Now I know that seems expensive, but you got to remember there's a lot of patents that go along and royalties that have to be paid with every single board. I'm sure if there was no patents or royalties in paintball, a board would only cost $10. But you can replace an LED board for about $50. A Dye Ultralight LED board for about $50. So one of their justifications was if somebody breaks their board, then call them up, $50 to replace as opposed to $100, $130. Okay. Also, LED boards tend to be more robust than OLED boards, okay? So they tend to last a lot longer, and the lifespan of them is a lot longer, so they're cheaper and they last longer. The other thing that they had was the OLED board, was almost like an unjustified expense. They said, 99% of all players, I believe most people can agree with that once they set their mode in their gun, they rarely ever change it. So charging somebody a little bit extra for something that they may not really truly be able to take advantage of, not a lot of people are switching between, NXL, PSP, semi-auto, and doing all this. Once they set their guns, usually people's guns tend to be, they stay the same way. And I think the last thing was that they were able to use the same board across multiple years. So if you had, let's say a DM12, then the board would be, the same thing as like a DM13. So they were able to use the same board throughout multiple years, as opposed to some other manufacturers, as they change and go through the different grip styles and stuff like that, their boards all change. And a lot of that can be obsolete in a couple of years. I mean, for instance, look at the Bob Long Alias, which is a phenomenal gun. You can't get those boards on there. I know it's just a LCD screen as opposed to an LED board, but those LCD screens, you can't find those, those frenzy boards are impossible to find nowadays. So that was some of their justifications as to why they went with the LED board for so long. You can probably 15 years from now, you can still find LED boards for your old DMs. And so, anyway, going forward, Dye has now released the Dye M2, right here at the end of 2015 with a phenomenal OLED board. And probably one of the biggest things about it doesn't just allow you to save player configurations, doesn't allow you just to change different modes, which is what they all do, is that it actually has internal pressure sensors inside of the gun that read out on the board. So as you're out there playing, if you want to check your pressures, you simply tap your joystick to the left when you're on the fly, and it'll actually show you what your pressures are. I'll show you what your low pressure reg is, I'll show you what your high pressure reg is. That in itself is phenomenal, because how much does a pressure tester cost? Okay, pressure testers run, I'm thinking like some of the ones from Bob Long, maybe $80, $90, stuff like that. They're not cheap at all, and it's included in the gun. Internally on the gun, you don't have to take your bolt out or anything. You can actually be shooting and check your pressures, which is amazing. So they didn't just give you a basic OLED board, they gave you a phenomenal OLED board with pressure sensors. And also, might I add, that they're only charging $1,400 for this gun. So that in itself is definitely something to be considered. What are some of the other things that they did? One, the adjustable knob came back. I'm not sure if you realized that a couple of the Dye guns, I believe it was the DM14, I believe, and maybe even the DM13 didn't have the adjustable knob on the side of the clamp and feed neck. That is a patent thing. I believe Dangerous Power owns the patent to the knob on the side of the clamping feed neck. They put that back in the gun. One of the other things that I really like on it is that they moved the USB charging port, which you don't ever want to get dirty. You don't ever want that to be exposed. That is how you're going to charge your gun up. It's how you're going to change your modes, how you're going to change your OLED screen, all that stuff. They moved it up here and out of the way. I remember the old the old Vanguard guns where they had the USB port on the back and your hand would rub it off and dirt would get inside there and you had to send it to get replaced. They put the USB charging port up at the very top, which is not really where you're going to have a lot of friction. So that was really nice that I like they did about it. They also came out with a new magnet trigger, which could have been better, but it's still a great trigger. A lot of people really, really like it. Me being a kind of like a semi-auto type player, I look at everything with a semi-auto trigger. Could have been some slight better changes that they could have done with it. One, I wish that it was a repelling magnet trigger and not an attraction magnet trigger. Anybody that ever shot an E-blade, like an E1 or something like that, where it had the magnet at the top where it was a breakaway magnet, that's essentially what this is. It still feels really light and snappy, but I would have liked to see the magnet at the back of the trigger, not, basically, my opinion is the further you pull the trigger back, the stronger the repelling force should be. On these, it's the exact opposite. The further you pull the trigger back, the repelling force goes down because you're pulling the screw away from the magnet. The magnets are basically getting further and further apart. So I like it when the magnets get closer together towards the back of the trigger pull. Something else that they did, they changed the eye pipes. Now, I took my digital calipers that I have here and I measured the inside and the outside of the new eye pipe versus the old eye pipe. It's definitely thicker and it's also smaller on the inside. So I think Dye kind of realized that a lot of the smaller paint might have been feeding past their detents. I have heard some comments of people complaining about the detents on the Dye eye pipes, with a really small paint going past the detents. And so I believe, per my digital caliper, and it's not super accurate, but I did notice that the inside of the new eye pipe, my old eye pipe was 0.72 on the inside of the new eye pipe was 0.70. So it is a little bit smaller, so the detents are going to stick in a little bit further to give you a little bit more bite on smaller paint. Paint I was shooting through this was about 684. I didn't have any double feeding issues whatsoever. Or with my Pinocchio speed loader, which on some of my older Dye guns, I did notice me feeding past the detents every once in a while. Something else I'd like to point out too about Dye is that they still polish their guns. A lot of gun manufacturers have gotten away from the polished guns because it costs more money. To put a satin finish on the gun or a bead blasted finish or a dust finish on the gun is a lot cheaper than polishing the gun. So if you like polished finish, keep in mind Dye still polishes their gun, which is an additional expense to them. Something else that I don't think is brought up enough about this, even though it is a gas-through ASA, one of the coolest things about this ASA is that it's actually adjustable. I think it may be one of the only adjustable non-macro line ASAs that are out there. So this ASA will slide back and forth. You stick your Allen key into the bottom and you do have almost a full, maybe 3/4 of an inch movement back and forth, and that's really neat. So I'm going to get into a disassembly and maintenance video. Luckily the 14, 15, and the M2, you basically take them all apart about the same way. They knocked it out of the park on this gun. One of the other things that I really like about it too is that it's one of the first Dye guns that are under 2 pounds, okay, which is about 3 or 4 ounces less than the DM15, which was a pretty light gun. The M2 is actually under 2 pounds, so puts it right in line with some of the lightest guns on the market, such like the MacDev. The clone, the MacDev, like the Clone 5, is a very lightweight gun. The Lux is a very lightweight gun, and these, let me get everything ready here. So you can see here it's 1 pound. Let's see. Yeah, 1 pound, 15 ounces. So it is a sub 2 pound Dye gun, and that's a lot of people that complain about the weight of the Dye guns in years past and stuff like that. It's not really much to complain about now. I mean, you're under 2 pounds, which is right up there with the lightest of the lightest paintball guns that are on the market. If you've been one of the people that have been blasting online, oh, I'm never gonna buy a gun, never gonna buy a die gun until they put an LED board in it. This is your gun now. The Die M2, this is your gun now. Let's talk about the fuse bolt. Well, they haven't changed the fuse bolt in so many years because it works. It was a phenomenal bolt to put in guns back in 2003. Many years ago when they first started with the original matrices. It's been refined, it's been changed. They do now the new Billy Wing bolt in these, which basically means it just goes through, I believe, a couple extra steps of polishing and they anodize it. Really, it makes it look really nice. But is there anything wrong with the fuse bolt? No, it's won multiple championships. Okay, it is a very reliable bolt system. It's a very accurate, and it's very gentle on paint. It's a very quiet bolt system. Does it use a little bit of air? Yeah, that's your trade-off. You get slightly softer shots, a lot quieter, but you're going to use a little bit more air. So that's one of those trade-offs. But as you saw with this, we pulled almost 10 pods on a 68 4500, and that's pretty decent on efficiency. So this M2, Die knocked it out of the park in my opinion with this M2. So, in your hands, how they designed this between the grips, the rubber, and everything, it just, now it doesn't feel like something that you can, something that's extremely comfortable in your hands. It feels extremely solid. There's nothing that wiggles. How they've locked the grip frame into the gun and how this foregrip feels, you don't feel any sort of play or any sort of wiggling when you're out there. So it just feels like it's almost one solid piece. One of the other things that haunted the Die guns with the eye wires that were always tough to tuck around the solenoids, they've done away with that now with the wire, with the wireless connections there. You pull the grip frame away and you got those wireless, you've got that wireless connection. You never have to worry about pinching eye wires anymore. But there's not a lot of bad things you can say about the new Die M2. For the price that they're charging for, $1,400, it's not an $1,800 or a $1,900 market. They knocked it out of the park. And you get a free internal pressure sensor, with the new board. So they still were able to maintain the shape of the ultralight frame. This gun right here, a lot of people need to put up or shut up when it comes to their money. They've been demanding OLED board. It's here. So, and it's also very sleek. It doesn't have like that super tall profile that Die, that a lot of people kind of used to with Die. It's very, very low profile. When you're looking at it, you're basically right at the top of your hand, you're looking right down the barrel. There's not an LPR in the back, the LPR is in the front. So, it's a great shooting gun. So, there's not really much else I'm going to talk about with the Die M2. I will get into a maintenance video here shortly. I'll be doing it probably on I'll probably do it with my 15, but extra barrel back, nice OLED board, pressure sensors, thicker eye pipe, bolt out the back operation, nice clamping feed neck, great trigger. Give this gun a shot. If you see this gun at the field, try shooting. I think you're going to really like it. Thanks for tuning in.